Okay, hello everyone. Here we are for the last time doing an online lecture to talk about how to write better before we do the exam. I will see you one more time this week and then we're going to do the exam. As I explained to you many times, this textbook is invaluable because, as you can see, all the tabs on this one, everything on the exam, including the evaluation section of the cite passages, are in the textbook. Some of them we skipped over a little bit, but we discussed them usually for the first 30 minutes of every class. We looked at each passage and we looked at the weak points. We criticized the writing style and whether the context or the perspective, or in some cases whether the writer was going off topic just to entertain. In certain cases, when you're writing, you want to be, ideally you want to be as efficient as possible. That's the part of the 3 C's, which I start this class and I end this class with these 3 C's. I'm not sure how my high school teacher wrote this, but she just said that, students, what you really need to consider every time that you're writing something is these 3 C words. And there are many C words that are relevant to composition, right? Composition itself is a C word, but these 3 C words, I think, they're not rules, but they're guidelines. It's sort of like when you read somebody who is a very intelligent, capable writer, and then they write about writing. I mentioned Aristotle as one of the most influential people in terms of how to construct writing and how writing should be in order to be effective. And what type of writing. And I don't necessarily agree with everything Aristotle said, or what George Orwell said, or what William Wordsworth said, or any of these great intellectual people, but these 3 C words that my high school professor, I keep saying professor, she should have been a professor. She was sort of a legend in our high school. She turned lazy, ignorant. What am I trying to say? She turned unmotivated students into good writers, and her class was challenging, and there was a group of us, I think, who pursued various humanities disciplines. Some people went into philosophy, some people became high school English teachers, some people became English literature professors in Korea. So these are the magic words. Clear, I always start with clear. So we'll go clear, coherent, and concise. Okay? So you can have writing that doesn't follow that doesn't fit in these adjectives, but it's to your advantage to make sure that other people can understand you, that each part of your writing is connected to the other parts, and that you don't waste words, and you're not, whether the newspaper or the website wants you to write 100 words or 200 words or 1,000 words, but that you don't need to write more when it's unnecessary. You don't need to repeat yourself. If you can be clear and coherent and concise in every sentence, then you're a good writer. That's, I think, all you need is to follow those 3 guidelines, and there you go. So I think most of the writing in this textbook does follow these rules. However, the one thing that's missing when you're talking about this writing these things can apply to text messages. They can apply to blogs. They can apply to social media. These are almost like universal guidelines. However, if you're writing a paper or you're a lawyer defending a client, then you do have to think about purpose. You have to think about, context, and you have to think about perspective, right? And part of this is considering who your audience is. And I should say, rather than audience, I said readership. But, if you're talking, it's an audience. If somebody's reading, it's your readership. Your readership, when you hand in papers to me, is just your professor. But what you really need to think about is that you need to, in writing, don't just try to impress your professor or try and get a grade, but to imagine that if 100 professors read it, that they would all give you an A. Not that that would be very ambitious, but if you can capture, if you can connect, you can communicate with your readership. This is really, these things are the means to do that. Just when you're doing academic stuff, unlike this National Geographic writing, in between the passages, they talk to you about introducing reasons. For example, on page 124, right? I keep telling you that reasoning is fundamental to writing formally. It's not just not using slang or using like proper English and punctuation and grammar and everything. It's the reasoning and the logic, where if you were writing something personal, that you wouldn't have to be concerned. And you all wrote the creative writing stuff. There was a lot of great ideas and interesting things, and you could deviate. Like the purpose didn't have to be clear. You could write in a little bit like sort of unconventional way. You could write poetry where it's not clear exactly what you're saying, and it's up to the reader. We know that poetry usually tries to use as many figures of speech, allusions, metaphors, similes, all the devices they can, and they squish them together, and you can be trying to say multiple things, and whether the person is a professor or the person is a world famous author, they might not necessarily interpret what you write the way that you want. But going back to the Greeks again, with Plato, Aristoteles, Aristotle, Socrates, also known as Socrates, these people, they thought that the closer you could get to the essence of communication using the exact words that were the closest to the reality of what you were saying was the most important thing. So, I mean, take a look at 124, just because I've mentioned this before. Like, the big question is, often just think about, if you write something and you guys are done to your papers, it's all done and everything, but you have to write a paragraph at the end of the exam. Is the two questions. In Korean, you usually say 어떻게, you say how, and well, we also say 왜, but 왜 in Korean sort of doesn't have the same sort of desire for you to explain. But in English, it's more why. but both are relevant. Like why are you thinking that? How are you doing it? Purpose, right? Think about the topic that you're using, and what you're trying to do. Are you trying to persuade? Are you trying to argue? Or are you trying to be neutral? Are you trying to just inform people like National Geographic does, and remain sort of withdrawn or inoffensive as much as possible? Sorry, my nose is still not in good shape. So we come to chapter, I believe it's chapter 5. It is. We'll cover the second part of chapter 5 in class, but this is a good one because it's different than the other articles. I think, first of all, the picture of the lightning striking multiple times right in front of a city. It's in Greece. It's this picture sort of it matches and it indicates where the information is coming from a lot better. I think it represents, is what I'm trying to say. I think it represents the passage better than, for example, the potato picking picture or the exotic food picture with some young girls eating caterpillars and things like that. This one just seems to capture sort of the essence of what the passage is going to be about. So it starts out, the introductory paragraph starts out in a way that you could do, but on the exam, please don't. What they do is they start out with a bunch of facts, right? And on an exam, you can't research, you can't use your phone, you can't use Google. So if a topic is there that you are very knowledgeable about, I go ahead and start by, sort of rhyming off a few good facts that are, especially if they're not well known or they're surprising. The point of this introduction is to impress, to amaze, to surprise us with the reality, which is lightning is not a rare event. It's a constant reality where, despite the fact that it's incredibly uncommon for humans to get hit by lightning, there's thousands and millions of lightning strikes all the time. The Earth is so big and we are so small, and normally we don't stand on top of buildings with a golf club, so we don't become targets, right? It's Benjamin Franklin and his lightning rod that save us from that danger, because he realized that if we could get the electricity to pass to the sky or to the ground through a lightning rod, then everybody in the building would be, and every electrical device would be safe. So it says, every second of every day all over the world, there are 100 lightning bolts striking the earth. So every second there's 100. So my millions of lightning bolts was probably a low estimate. Every year, 100 people in the United States and Canada die from lightning. There was somebody from the school near mine, from another city, a very popular young man who was hiking, president of student council, an athlete and everything, a little bit older than me. He was hiking in the hills and around his small city, and he was struck by lightning and he died. That was it. It was like he was there and he was not. Uh, that's why we use lightning as a metaphor for things happening quickly. If you are doing a lightning round, which I'm trying to do this quickly, uh, you're just doing something in a flash, and it's also lightning is unexpected. We have this great expression in English. I'm sure in French they probably have the same thing. We say out of the blue, because it doesn't actually have to be cloudy. It doesn't have to be raining. It doesn't have to be a storm. Lightning can literally come out of blue sky and strike the ground, especially in the interior of the United States, or the plains of Western Russia and Ukraine, where like you can have there could be not a cloud in the sky, and then the buildup of electricity could happen, and a lightning bolt could strike out of the blue, literally out of the sky. It mentions Benjamin Franklin. I think, unlike Mr. or former President John F. Kennedy, Benjamin Franklin belongs in this conversation. He's famous for inventing the lightning rod and flying. I'm sure he knew what he was doing, but it sounds like a crazy thing to do. Flying a kite in the middle of a storm just to see if it attracted the lightning. It's filled with facts. This chapter is filled with facts. So this is really the purpose. The purpose of this passage is implicitly understood. Meaning they don't say the purpose of this paper is to make you shocked at like how crazy lightning is in this way and that way. They really just say lightning is amazing. Nature has capabilities and has power that human beings often don't recognize. So listen to this. A lightning bolt is as hot as the surface of the sun. Lightning bolts happen 100 times every second. Thousands of people have died over the years being hit by lightning. The weirdest thing about this passage, I have to say, and I think we do have to talk about evaluation. So one moment. The evaluation part is, yeah, okay, I got it. We're looking at impressive information. Here's all the facts. We're not promoting lightning. We're not saying lightning is bad or good. But the concluding sentence is just funny. It deviates from the whole. This is a whole bunch of scientific information, and this is why lightning is an amazing scientific, natural event, and you should respect lightning, and you should understand how it works, and you should be careful. It gives you advice about how to not get hit by lightning. All of that stuff all seems very coherent and clear, and then at the end, the sixth paragraph, the concluding sentence, this is what it says. It goes into an expression. They say that lightning never hits the same place twice, but that's not true, of course. Lightning can hit the same place twice, 100 times, but in the sense of like statistically, if you're going to calculate it, the probability of back-to-back lightning bolts hitting one spot is like lottery numbers, right? So mathematically speaking, that eventually that spot's going to get hit by lightning, but it's not going to get hit twice in a row, probably. And if it gets hit 5 times in a row, you're getting into the chance of that happening is extremely, almost impossible, but possible. But you're getting closer and closer to it being the most unlikely thing in the universe. It's like Is the Earth going to crash into another planet? Maybe eventually our orbit is going to be thrown off by some, comet, or, the solar system is going to reorient itself in several billion years. The sun's going to turn into a red giant, and it's going to eat planets, and everything's going to change. But like right now, the probability of the Earth, doing a given thing is almost vanishingly. I think the expression is vanishingly small. It's so small you can't see it. So like when you buy a lottery ticket, just remember, you have a similar chance of winning the lottery as you do getting hit by lightning. And people survive. So there's 100 people that die from lightning, and people survive. Case in point, one man, Roy Sullivan. I am Professor Sullivan, and my name's Jeremy, and I have no idea who Roy is. When I first read this book, I was like, it's not my cousin. It's not my uncle. There's probably several million Sullivans around, so very common Irish name. So no relation. But I like the fact that he is able to survive lightning. So hopefully Sullivans have lightning resistance or something. But Roy Sullivan was hit by lightning 7 different times. 7, not in the same spot. He was in 7 different places, and he was struck by lightning 7 times. And he got hurt, as you would. But somehow he survived each time. However, in 1983, when I was just a baby, he did die, and it wasn't for lightning. He killed himself because he loved a woman, but she was not in love with him. So there's some sort of like dark romantic suicide at the end of this, which, what are you doing, National Geographic? I mean, I don't know how you want to fit that. It's an interesting story. It's true, people say lightning doesn't strike twice, but that's the last sentence. He killed himself because he loved a woman, but she didn't love him. It sounds like some sort of like the last line of a dark romance short story or something like that. We went from amazing people with the power and the characteristics of natural phenomenon, a natural disaster of lightning, which causes damage and has power and speed beyond what you can hardly imagine as a human being, unless like you can't even see it until you usually hear it. It happens, and you see it not as it's traveling down or traveling up. Lightning actually usually travels up to the sky, but it looks like it's traveling down because you just see the flash, like you just see the bolt, and you assume that the lightning bolt is traveling down, but it's usually not. The electricity usually flows from the earth up, okay? But regardless, it's so fast, you don't see the lightning moving, you just see a snapshot of when it's done, right? All that information is interesting, and how to protect yourself and be safe from this amazingly impressive but dangerous natural thing is also relevant to so wear rubber boots, don't stand up, don't hug a tree, don't stand on top of a building with a sword or a golf club. But however, that you, after it tells you how to survive, it tells you about this guy who survived all these times, and then for the sake of his unsuccessful relationship, decided to kill himself in a great irony. Let's be honest, it's a tragedy. He survived 7 lightning bolts and then he killed himself. No. If you survive 7 lightning bolts, That means somebody wants you to survive. I don't know what religion you live in. I don't know what religion you practice or what you believe in. If you believe in God, or you believe in Allah, or you believe in Yahweh, or you're not religious, you think the world is random. But I'm sorry, after you, like, if you win the lottery 7 times, that makes people believe the universe is not random. So if you don't die, you need to keep yourself alive, and you need to respect the fact that nature has given you multiple chances to live your life. But I don't know the story in detail. So, but what I do know is that is a conclusion that does not match the introduction. And so I would be critical of that right away. This is a weak passage because the conclusion is ineffective, doesn't match, and it's related to lightning, but it's a personal anecdote that has not been integrated coherently into the writing. Okay? Now, I don't need to talk about the questions. You know what to do. Now that I explained what's going on, you know what to do. Comprehension questions, check out the discussion questions, check out the critical thinking questions, and I said, check out page 124, because they're just talking about reasons and how whenever you're writing, because or so or as a result, or any connecting word that provides reasoning or logic, explanation for your statements and your argument are very valuable. Okay, so I'll leave the homework, the comprehension, and the discussion and critical thinking up to you, and we'll talk about anything related, any concerns related to that tomorrow and Friday. Plus, we're going to do the tornado chasers as well to finish off chapter 5, and that will conclude the semester. So I'm sorry, my nose is my voice is a little bit nasal because my nose is not cooperating, but the show must go on. So thank you for listening, and this lecture will be up, last one for you to tune into, besides the one we have in person that we do the exam. Thank you, and have a good night.